Hey, how you doing today? I am Tequila Coleman, best-selling author, founder of God-Ordained Marriage Enterprise.com, and also we have our Rebuilding Broken Walls website and our God-Ordained Storehouse website.com. To, I'm about to say tonight. Today, I'm gonna be teaching on getting back on your feet. Getting back on your feet. This live, it is inspired by an email I received this morning. That email prompt this teaching that I'm going to share today. So come on in, everyone. Come on in and say hello as you're jumping on the live. Also, let me just say this: make sure that as you're jumping on the live stream, you are liking the live video and sharing this video out. Okay. Now, we're talking about getting back on your feet. Now, this is for you if you are facing eviction or foreclosure. This live is for you if you are facing homelessness or if you're living in your vehicle at the moment, if you're living in a shelter, or a room, and you want to get in your house, you want to get your life back on track. This is who this live is for. Okay. And let me just say this too. I'm going to share you some tips on how to turn your situation around. But I'm going to connect this to our God Ordained Storehouse website. Okay. So if you are in this situation and you're looking for resources, head over to our God Ordained Storehouse.com. That's the website, GodOrdainedStorehouse.com. And we have resources over there. Okay. I added if you click on the back on your feet page, you'll see it on the website, back on your feet. That's what it's called. If you click there, you will see we have step-by-step budgeting guide. We have a video that's sharing tips on living in a hotel. We got a resource tab, and we also have videos concerning your finances. Okay, so and we're going to be adding more to that website. All right, so let's continue. So getting back on your feet. Okay, so I'm going to share, how do you turn your situation around and get back on your feet? Okay. So get your pen, paper, and Bible out because I'm going to show you some scripture verse too. The Bible says my people are perishing for a lack of knowledge. Okay. One of the reasons why you're going through this situation is because God is trying to get your attention. He want to restore your life. He want to, release your wealth. But before he restore and release your wealth, he got to teach you. He got to give you that wisdom, okay, so that you don't end up in this situation again, okay? So, number one, the first question I want you to ask yourself is, how did I end up here? How did I end up here? And I'm going to integrate some of my story in this because um, I share this story a lot. The first time I found myself facing homelessness, right, when we were forced to go live in a hotel, right? Um, this was a long time ago. This was back in 2017 or maybe it was 2018. I can't remember. But the Lord had already prepared before it because he saw what was coming towards my life, he was able to see it before me, and so he alerted me. I just didn't know that was an alert. I didn't really know God all like that back in 20, I think it was 2018. I didn't really know him all like that, but I did hear him. He gave me a 6 month warning. He was like, start looking for a place to live in a hotel, and it didn't make sense to me because at that time I was living in a two-bedroom condo, and I was like, why I gotta look for? Why are you telling me to look for a hotel to stay in? And he never said why, but he kept putting that on my spirit. Look for a hotel to stay in. So I quickly found out why he was telling me that 6 months later because a situation happened that forced me to be in that position, right? And so it all made sense. I said, okay, this is why you told me that because you saw this was going to happen. You was getting me prepared. Cool. So long story short, when I got in the hotel, the first thing I asked myself, because I didn't like that, I was scared. That was my first time in that situation. I was scared. Oh my God, I didn't know what I was going to do. But I remember sitting down and I remember asking myself, how did you end up here? How did you end up here, Tequila? Right? I want you to ask yourself, how did I end up here? Whatever your situation is. For me, at that time, I ended up there because I trusted the wrong person. Okay. Someone who you should trust, but I trusted the wrong person. But also I ended up there as well. because of how I was handling my finances. Okay. And so that was one of my revelation, I got, as I sat down and asked myself this question, I said, oh, okay, I'm in this situation because of how I go about with my finances. Okay. So ask yourself, how did I end up here? Okay. What were you doing with your paycheck? These are some questions you can ask yourself. Um, you know, if you're facing home, not homeless, well, yeah, if you're facing eviction, that's what I wanted to say. If you're facing eviction right now or foreclosure, what were you doing with your paycheck? Okay. How are you paying your rent or your mortgage? Was that the last bill you paid? When you got paid, because some people will take care of all the other bills and then they'll pay their rent or mortgage only to, keep being in these situations where it's an emergency. So begin to look at it, ask yourself some questions. Okay, how did I end up here? What was I doing with my money? You know, um, Maybe you ended up in that situation. Maybe you was living with someone and things didn't work out, right? If that's the case, go ahead and you want to write these things down, because when you write these things down, it's going to help you to understand how you ended up here, but also the goal is to learn from it. Okay. The goal is to learn a lesson, right? So if you was living with someone and things didn't work out, if it was some shady business going down, that tells you right there, I can't trust this individual. Okay. I can't trust people who move like this, right? So, or if it was, if you ended up in that situation based off your finances, how you were handling them, okay, what is the lesson you can learn? What is the lesson you can learn from this? All right. We want to learn the lesson. Okay. We want to learn the lesson in every situation we find ourselves in. All right. So that's number one. How did I end up here? That's the first question I want you to ask yourself. Number two, let's talk about debt. Debt, DEBT. Let's talk about debt, because this teaching is all about let's turn this situation around. Okay, let's turn this situation around. If you are facing eviction right now, if you're facing foreclosure, if you're facing homelessness, 9 times out of 10, you probably also got some debt somewhere that you haven't paid off. So let's talk about this debt, because again, the Bible says, "My people are perishing for a lack of knowledge." When I get the knowledge and I apply this knowledge to my financial situation, I want to see it turn around and change for the better. Okay. Back in 2018, when the Lord, was getting me ready to transition from my 2 bedroom condo to the hotel, once we got in that hotel, I remember ordering it was Dave Ramsey book. I think it's called Complete Guide to Money. I think that's what it's called. But I read the book. Um, and I implemented I implemented the portion on concerning the debt, right? I didn't have a house, so I put the part he talked about debt. I implemented that, okay, and I was able to start seeing my financial situation turn around for the better, okay, and I still apply some of those principles he teach in that book um to with my life, okay, to this day, all right. So debt. How much debt do you have? So you want to write this down on your piece of paper. If you're like, I don't know. Okay, that's your first mistake. Okay, we got to get clear on the numbers. How much debt do you have? So get out your pen and paper, and I want you to write down. I want you to list out your debt. If you don't know, if you don't know all of the debt, the names, then I need you to pull your credit report. Okay, go pull your credit report so that you can see what's on that credit report. You also need to see your credit score. Okay, we gotta take a look at some things. Okay, we're gonna come out of denial and face the situation head on. So write down. I want you to list out all of your debt. Okay, and I want you to list as you're listing out the debt. I want you to write down the company name, the amount. Okay, how much you owe. Write down the due date next to it. And once you have written down the company, the amount, the due date, I want you to now organize this from lowest to highest. Okay. We're going to organize this debt from the lowest to the highest. And we're going to start working on the lowest one first, okay? We got to build momentum here, all right? I'm the type of person, I love to put stuff on my wall. Like I tape my paper on the wall and I it's like a to-do list. I love to cross things off. I get motivated, you know, when I see that I'm crossing things off the list, right? So that's what worked for me when I was in that situation. Not the fact that I was ready to cross something off my list when I was paying down my debt. I was taking my money that was coming in. I was like, I'm about to pay this debt off because I just wanted to cross it off. So figure out what works for you and then work it. Okay. But list out all of your debt, like I said, from lowest to highest, and we are going to put together a game plan. Okay. You want to commit to and you want to focus on one bill at a time. So commit to paying off one bill at a time. Okay, starting with the lowest. Okay, debt until you work your way all the way down. Okay. Now let's take a look at some scriptures because you need to know what the Bible say about debt. Okay. Again, the scriptures say, "My people are perishing for a lack of knowledge." Okay. So we want to come away from perishing. We don't want to keep going in debt because you know what that also means? When I show you these scriptures, when we're going in debt, you're gonna come up under that curse on your finances. Okay? I'm gonna show you. So let's look at some scripture. Let's go to Romans chapter 13. Romans 13, verse 8. It say, let no debt remain outstanding. You hear that? Let no debt remain outstanding. So if you have debt, but you don't have no intentions on paying it, come on now. We got to change that mindset. Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another, for whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. Okay, let me show you another one. Let's go to Psalms chapter 37. We're going to look at verse 21. Okay, Psalms 37, verse 21. It say, the wicked borrow and do not repay. You hear that? God see the one who borrow money and have no game plan, no intentions on repaying back. He referred to them as wicked. Okay, so it say the wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give generously. So if you have debt, we want to make sure, okay, we're making plans on paying back our debt. Okay, we don't want to stay up under the label of being wicked. Okay, and let's look at Proverbs. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7. It say the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Okay. The borrower is slave to the lender. So whenever we go in debt, whenever we start borrowing money, we put ourselves as a slave. Okay. And you're gonna see it happen. And it's more scriptures. I just pulled out these three right here. But you're gonna see and feel like a slave when life get hard for you. Okay, when life start getting hard for you, and you start falling behind in your bills and stuff. Here come the creditors calling. Here they come now want to repossess your vehicle, or they coming to take your home. Right now, you a slave to them. Okay, so we want to make sure, okay, that we are not putting ourselves in that position of being a slave. God called his children to be the head. He said we are the lenders, not the borrowers, right? And starting out, when you start this walk with the Lord, you may start off in debt. That's cool. We just have to keep on partnering with God, stay obedient with Him, because obedience is what's going to bring you into the blessing. But as you begin to get the wisdom and you start handling your finances differently, things should begin to change and turn around for you. Okay. Ever since um, ever since I had children, I started saying this in the single mother community because I started noticing ever since I became a single mom. I was like, being a single mom and being in debt, that don't mix well. That's what I noticed. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this life, So I had quickly got the revelation. I cannot have debt if I'm going to be a single mother. You see what I'm saying? It keeps your money tied up, all these problems happening. So I try my best not to keep debt. I really do. Soon as if I get debt, I'm about to pay it off. Okay, that's just how I am, because of the things I have went through in my life. So, um, there's more scriptures on debt. I just pulled out these three. Okay, but these scriptures are telling us, "Oh, no one anything." That is the goal. Get out of debt. It say the wicked borrow but does not pay back. So if you have debt, if you got student loan, if you have credit card debt, okay, whatever, make have a plan on paying off your debt. You can also call them and like the creditors, you can call them and make ask for a settlement, or you can offer them a certain amount and see if they'll take it to settle that debt. Okay. Let's see. Hey everyone, thank you all for joining. You said, why do God have us wicked family members? Why, Lord? Okay. Why do God? Okay, same thing. All right. Yeah. So number three. Okay. Third thing you want to do when we talk about getting back on your feet, you want to start building a savings. Okay. Start building a savings. Even if you find yourself in a situation where you might be living in a hotel or you might be living in a room or with someone, whatever your situation is, start building a savings. So you can start with where you are at right now. So if you can only save $5 a week, okay, cool. If you can only save $10 a month, cool. Start there, right? The goal is to build a savings, okay? Because you need something, already there in case of an emergency. You need something that you can fall back on, okay? You don't want to be in this emergency situation when you have no help. And most people nowadays, they don't have help. Like if we really are honest with each other, most people don't have help. We out here by ourselves, okay, trying to figure this thing out, right? So just put yourself in a better position by building up um a savings for yourself, okay? And again, I learned this from Dave Ramsey book, The Complete Guide to Money. I think in his book he was saying build up like $1,000 savings. I raised mine. I was like, I need about 10,000. I want like a $10,000 saving, just in case. Cause things get a little expensive. Okay, so just start putting some money up into your savings. Okay, account. All right. Number four, start giving to the poor. Okay, start giving to the poor. Now the Lord taught me this principle. Y'all gonna always hear me talk about giving to the poor because, again, as a single mother, I used to struggle financially. I mean, the struggle was so real. It was ridiculous. I mean, oh my God, it was just so real. This just struggle, struggle, struggle. It seemed like as soon as I get over one hump, here comes something else. And the Lord, I remember this like it was yesterday when He finally called me to this journey. He gave me a strategy. He was like, start giving to this individual right here. It was a person who was at my favorite grocery store that I shop at. And I kid you not, as I started giving to this man, I gave to him for one whole year before I moved. It was almost like I went from, and it was quick, it happened quickly. It was like I went from struggling to I began to see change loose off my finances. It's just hard to explain. Um, it was like, how when money coming in, but you can't keep the money as it coming in, it's going out. I was going through that, the car problems was eating up my money. It was just a whole lot of crazy stuff. So, but once I started giving to the poor, all of that started going away. And I couldn't really interpret what was going on. I couldn't comprehend what was going on at that time. But as I look back, I know I'm like that was a principle God was teaching me. He was rebuking that devourer spirit off of me. He was because the Bible says when you give to the poor, you shall not lack. He was helping me. It was a strategy, right? So start giving to the poor. Okay. And I'm gonna put emphasis on financially. So even though you may be in a situation where you might be homeless, you might be facing eviction, and you probably like, I don't got any money to give to the poor, give a dollar. Go find you a dollar and go give it to the poor. Okay. Or $5, $10, whatever. Go give to the poor. Now, let me say this. Before you give to the poor, I want you to pray over your money. I do. I want you to pray over your money. And I want you to plead the blood of Jesus over your money and ask God to protect your money as you give this money out, because you don't want, I'm not saying these people gonna do this, but you just want to keep yourself up under the protection of the Lord, because when money exchange our hand, and if the person we giving the money to, if they performing witchcraft on it, that's a way how they could transfer your wealth, your destiny. So pray over your money, and plead the blood of Jesus over it, and then you give to the poor. Okay. Now let's look at some scriptures on giving to the poor. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 19, and let's look at verse 17. Proverbs 19, verse 17, it says, whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord. You hear that? So when we are kind to the poor, this is, we're lending to the Lord. Okay. That's how God sees it. He's like, now you're giving to me when we give to the poor, or kind to the poor. It said, whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done. So you have rewards coming back your way when you are kind to the poor. Okay. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 28, and we're going to look at verse 27. Now listen to this one. Proverbs 28, verse 27 say, those who give to the poor will lack nothing. This is a principle. So if you are in this season, if you're going through a season right now of not enough, you robbing Peter to pay Paul, go get you a dollar, okay, and go give to the poor. Okay, I'm just saying, it could be whatever amount, but go start giving to the poor. It say those who give to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close their eyes to them receive many curses. Okay, you don't want it. You want to come out of this season of lack. You want to live in the land of overflow. Okay, flowing with milk and honey. That's what you want. And so we gotta apply principles to our finances if we want to see things turn around for the better. Okay. The world tell us go work 5 jobs, but God is like, give to the poor. He's like, don't go in debt. Right? You see the difference? The world say, go ahead and work all these jobs, but God is like, okay, stay away from debt, plan, give to the poor, have diligent hands, right? He giving us strategy here. Okay. Let's look at another one. Let's go to Psalms 41, verse well, I was gonna say verse 3, but let's start at Psalms 41, verses 1 through 3. So Psalms 41, starting in verse 1, it saying, blessed are those who have regard for the weak. Weak is also referring to the poor. Blessed are those who have regard for the weak. The Lord delivers them in times of trouble. So you already know the situation you're in right now. You already know, some trouble gonna come your way, some hard time gonna come your way. So go ahead and start giving to the poor. Okay, because according to the scripture, God will deliver you in times of trouble. Okay. It say in verse 2, the Lord protects and preserves them. They are counted among the blessed in the land. He does not give them over to the desires of their foes. So just by you giving to the poor, he won't allow your enemies, to overtake you, to defeat you. Okay. Verse number 3, the Lord sustains them on their sick bed and restores them from their bed of illness. So that's another one. Just from you giving to the poor, if your body hits sickness, right, disease or whatever hits your body, God will sustain you. And this is what actually happened to me when the first time when He moved us into the hotel in 2018. I didn't know I was sick. Let me tell you something. I didn't know I was sick. No, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Now that I'm thinking about it, yes, I did. In 2018, as he was telling me, start looking for a hotel to go into. I didn't know why. I found some hotels or whatever. And so once we moved into the hotel, um, that was when I'm not gonna say the diagnosis because of these monitoring spirits that's following me, but around that time I had got sick and my condition, they put me on, I was taking like 6, 7 medications, right, a day because of the sickness that hit my body. So as we were in the hotel, and I'm taking the medication right now. Now, this is my testimony. I'm not telling anyone to not take your medication. I'm just going to share my story. But this is for the purpose of showing you how God sustained me through this sickness, okay? Because I was given to the poor, also back here. My way at this time, giving to the poor, I was serving. Okay, this is when I was in the single mother community. I was serving them, pouring into them, teaching and coaching, mentoring, all that stuff. That's what I was doing back then. So, long story short, I was taking 6 medications at that time. And I remember hearing the Lord say, stop taking the medication. And I was like, what you mean? I was like, I need this, right? I said, I need this. I got to take this, you know. And, I kept feeling him tell me, stop taking it. And I was a little scared because one of the medication I knew I needed to take. And so I was like, all right, I don't know why he's telling me to stop taking this medication. I'm gonna go ahead and just be obedient, I'm like, if he's telling me to stop, I guess you're gonna save me, right? Again, I'm not telling anyone to stop taking your medication. I'm just sharing my own testimony here. So long story short, we was in that hotel for 10 months and I was not on that medication for 10 months. Okay, follow me here. Once God transitioned me out of that hotel and put us in our townhouse, he also sent the wave of money my way where I was able to, you know, pay for better health treatment, right? I go to these doctors, they run these tests on me, and one of the doctors I had, because there was several doctors, one of the doctors, she was like, they thought I was still taking my medication. She was like, one of your medication you're taking is actually making you sicker. She was like, and it's affecting this part of your body. And she was like, I know why they gave you this. She was like, but you need to come off of this, because it's making you worse. And I kid you not, that's when I thought about the Lord. I say, that's why he told me to start taking the medication. That's why. See, I was activating principle when I didn't even know I was activating principles. Okay. Just by me giving at that time, the way how my giving showed up was in serving a single mother community. I also at that time I used to sell baby clothes on eBay, right? I had a whole lot of baby clothes and stuff like baby items. I had baby clothes, baby items, all that stuff. I used to sell that stuff on eBay because I learned how to drop ship. And whatever didn't sell on eBay, I would give it away. I would give it to like the nearest single mother. I had my single mother group also around that time on the meetup.com platform. So that was offline. So I would give, whatever baby items or clothes I had to the single moms, right? That was how my giving showed up because I didn't really have that much money back then, right? Not knowing I'm activating principles, not knowing because I'm giving, like in this way, God is now sustaining me through this illness that hit my body. It came to take my life, but God sustained me through that bad boy. Okay. So there's benefits in giving to the poor. There's benefit. Just something you just got to see for yourself. You got to just do it and see for yourself. Okay. But it's benefits to give to the poor. Number one, when you give to the poor, you will not lack. Number two, God won't give you over to your enemies. Number three, um, you have rewards coming back for you. Okay. When you give to the poor, you give it to God. And then also God will sustain you on your bed of sickness. Okay. So there's benefits to it. And also your finances are gonna start turning around. It's gonna start changing for the better. All right. Because I had got that revelation. I know the Lord be like, Tequila's so crazy. When I saw my finances turn around, I was like, Lord, you mean to tell me I've been sitting up here struggling? I've been sitting up here struggling for as a single mom all these years, and all I had to do was give to the poor. I said, I'm living my life wrong. That's what I told him. I said, I could have been did this. I could have been came out of this struggle. All right, so give to the poor. That's number four. Let's see. Number five. Okay, we're talking about getting back on your feet. We need daily prayer, okay? Because if, like I said, if you are in a situation where you're facing homelessness, eviction, foreclosure, if you just facing these things, some of this is spiritual, okay? It is, whether you believe in it or not. This stuff is spiritual, okay? And we got to shut this down. Like whatever, okay, everything is spiritual before it's physical. So if you face an eviction in the physical, yeah, that eviction first started up in the heavenly realm. That's why you're seeing it now manifest in the spiritual. Yes, it could have also came because maybe you got behind on your rent or whatever, but that also was up there in that spiritual realm. Okay, if you living in poverty, poverty spirit first originated in the spiritual realm. Okay, so I need you to understand whatever you're going through right now, it first originated in the spiritual realm. Barrenness, if everything looks dry, yeah, that's because that's what's over your life in the spiritual realm. So we now got to apply spiritual principles to clear out the clutter that's over your life in the spiritual realm. Okay, so we need to be praying, we need to be fasting. Think this is how I see it. This is how I see clearing out the spiritual clutter. So when I pray and when I fast, when I do these things, I see me taking a broom. I see my prayers acting like a broom, and it's going and it's sweeping all this spiritual clutter. It's sweeping away, what's over my life in the heavenly realm that shouldn't be there. That's how I see it. So we have to start praying now. If you can pray every day, that's recommended. Okay. But I know when you're in these type of situations, you up under oppression, you are up under depression, suffering, you probably up under some fear, anxiety, panic and stuff. So the goal is everyday prayer. But if you can get, a prayer in once a week, hey, that's good too. Okay. But we got to start praying and we want to be strategic in our prayer. So what do you see manifesting in your life? If you see lack, then write that down. That's a spirit of lack. If you see everything is dried up, okay, we got to, write that down. That could be the spirit of barrenness, um, drought, okay? If you see I'm gonna just name off some, because you could be dealing with spirit of a want, spirit of need, beggary spirit, poverty spirit, as I stated, um, spiritual robbers. Okay, that's another one. Okay, that comes to eat up your money, right? Monitoring spirits that is, monitoring your life and creating these negative situations in your life, that was really what was behind me have always having them car problems. I didn't know all this stuff back then. I was really dealing with monitoring spirit. I was dealing with witchcraft being performed over my vehicle. It was sent towards my vehicle, and I know who did it now. Back then, um, and it was eating up my money. That's how they eat up your money. Okay, they would target things it could be in your home. They'll have things breaking down like the refrigerator or the washing machine or the dryer breaking down so that you can pay for a whole new one. It's eating up your money. In my case, it was the vehicle. I was constantly pouring $5,000, $10,000 into this vehicle. I remember my uncle, he was like, you just need to get a new vehicle. He was like, we're gonna just let this go. Get a new vehicle. Okay. And all of that stuff stopped when I started praying over my vehicle. That's how I know that was witchcraft. All of that car problem stuff stopped when I started pleading the blood of Jesus over my vehicle every day, rebuking certain things off of the vehicle. My life calmed down when I started praying. Okay. So we gotta start we gotta integrate prayer in here, fasting as well. Okay. If you see stagnation, if you see limitation, right, you can't go past a certain income bracket, okay, that's Deuteronomy 28. That's a curse. Okay, you go read it. Deuteronomy 28, curses for disobedience. It can also be the witchcraft too. If you see restriction, okay, you're being restricted, you know. Um, Again, this is all these things is what we're breaking off in prayer. Okay, the Bible talks about um, when we love sleep. that leads to poverty, so you want to make sure you rebuking all spirit of laziness, spirit of slothfulness, that slack hand. We want diligent hands, okay? It's okay to sleep, but not too much sleep, okay? Because when you're in this situation, you got to work. You got to work. Well, you got to work in general anyway. But yeah, so we got to pray, okay? So you want to be binding these things, so you want to be rebuking, like how we say rebuke and bind these spiritual robbers, monitoring spirit, the spirit of lack, want, need, poverty spirit, you want to breaking all stagnation, limitation, restrictions off of your life, okay? Now you got to go in. You got to renounce some things too, renounce the poverty mindset or to renounce all covenants with barrenness and poorness, whatever you see in your life, you want to renounce these things as well. Okay. Renounce, some of these word curses, okay, that may have been spoken over you that had now just threw your life into this warfare. Okay. So that's number 5. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. She said we don't wrestle with flesh and blood. That's right. Let's see, on time word. What's the prayer points for the insurance company charges stuff? That's not a prayer point. You just gotta everything not a prayer point. Some stuff you just gotta deal with it face, head on. Um, and see what they talking about. All right, number 6. Number 6 is obedience brings you into blessings. Okay. Um, we're talking about I'm more so focusing on the financial aspect, turn around our finances. So we need obedience when it pertains to our finances. Okay, obedience on every level. But right here, we need to know what are the financial principles, in the Bible, and apply those principles to our life. And then also stay away from the principle. I talked about this. I think I talked about this 2 days ago. Yeah, what I showed you are the principle you want to stay away from, and that was like laziness, too much sleep, having a slack hand, those things. You gotta stay away from these things, okay? Um, avoid that at all costs. There will be times, and let me be clear, there are times where, like buying a house, ain't nothing wrong with that. You might have to take out a loan for a house. I don't see anything wrong with that, as long as you have a goal to pay it off, um, but all that other stuff, how you go shopping, and they be like, "Oh, you can get this credit card if you sign up today for this credit card, we give you 20% off." You don't need that 20%. Go on and pay that money. You don't go in debt. Don't take out that credit card just to get $20 off. Mm-mm. You get $20 off today, but then this bill comes, you're gonna be paying about $2,000. Uh-uh. Mm-mm. So just avoid, you don't want to go in, you don't want to keep going in debt, okay, just for some 20% off, okay. Come on now. I kept telling them people no every time I go to the store. They're like, oh, you could get 20% off or 50%. I don't want that. No, I'm like, no, I'll pay it. No, thank you, I'll pay it. Like, you're not going to get me. I already did that when I got out of college. That's when I hear when it's all that credit card debt. I would not go back to that. Okay. He said, yes, you did a teacher on it. I thought I did. Okay. Oh, in the academy too. Yeah. My finances have dried up after giving my life to Christ. I was going to church and serving. Any idea why? It could be a variety of different ideas. See, it's not that the enemy want you to think your finances dried up after you gave your life to Christ. That's how the enemy want you to see it. No. Okay. Once you gave your life to Christ, okay, because it's like a we don't know this. We don't know this at the time of us giving our life to Christ. But all of what we built could have been built on the wrong foundation, right? So once we say yes to Christ, you know, now he starts shaking things. Now he got to tear down that foundation we just built, right? And it can look like a drying up. It can look like a stripping. It can look like a pruning or a removal of certain people, right? But what it really is alignment. Okay, it's alignment, you know, it's rebuilding the foundation, right? Um, but I'll say this too. Some people might disagree with me, but I'm saying it anyway. If you were given, um, let me see, hold up. I'll say this. If you sown into a foundation that's rooted in the occult, that's not really serving Christ, and you sowing there, that's gonna cause your finances to come up under attack. Okay, so you have to really know who you're giving to. Okay, you gotta know, like, and you just ask the Lord, like, is this good ground? Is this a good place for me to sow into? If He say yes, then you go ahead and sow. If not, hold the finances back. But 9 times out of 10, when we give our life to the Lord, and then all hell start breaking loose, that's because it's what's really going on. He's shaking out what never belonged in our life. He's it's alignment, it's rebuilding, you know, and we don't be knowing this because we thought all this time we were living the right way, you know. We were doing things the right way until he showed us, until he give us that wisdom. Okay. Yeah. So I think I was on number 6, obedience. Yeah, obedience brings you into blessings. So avoid debt. Okay. Pay back what you owe if you owe any debt. Go ahead and make a plan on how you're going to pay back your debt. Um, keep doing good despite your situation. Okay. Because sometimes we could be in these situations where, we like, "Oh, it's not fair. Why I got to go through this, right?" And if you're not, paying attention, it can make you bitter. Okay, so if you're in this situation, try to keep the right perspective, keep the right heart, focus on the future. You got it, I'm gonna say this, but I know when you're in a situation, you probably won't be able to think this far out. You need a plan, you need a goal, okay? Um, but again, sometimes when you're in these situations where you're facing homelessness, you know, don't know where you're gonna lay your head at, it's hard for you to even think about 30 days from now. Okay. But when you can, if you can sit down and plan you out a 90-day goal, 6-month goal, 1 year goal, or how you gonna, get out the situation, that'd be great. Okay. That'd be great. That'll help you turn things around for the better. Okay, that also gives you hope. It's the very thing you can use to help you get up out of that bed every morning and say, "No, I'm working towards this. I ain't gonna be in this for long." I remember when the Lord had last year when He had told us to go into the hotel in April of last year, and my children went. Once they learned we had to go into the hotel, they was like, "Oh man," I was like, "We ain't gonna be in here long." Now I didn't think, I really didn't. I was like, no more than 90 days. That 90 days it went into coming up on about 7 months. I didn't really think it was gonna be that long, but I put things in place. Okay, I take fast action. Okay, because I know where I want to be. I know where I'm going. Okay, and I know where I don't want to be. So that's why I get up and work every single day. But yeah, obedience brings you into the blessings. Okay, um, in order to know what to be obedient to, we got to know what these words say. Okay, we got to know what the words say. All right. Then number 7. This is around budgeting. You want to tell your money where to go every month. Okay. Now, over on my website, the God-Ordained I have that link in the description area. If you go over onto the God-Ordained Storehouse website, if you click on back on your feet tab, it's at the top, and you click on step-by-step budgeting guide. Here it is right here. It's time for you to live on a budget. Okay. When you hear me say the word budget, don't think restriction. No, a budget is you telling your money where it's going to go every single month. That's it. Versus, how you get your paycheck, and when you don't have a budget, you don't know where your money went. You just buy, you just got paid, then you stop at that McDonald's, and then you might go to the mall, get a little shirt, get pair of pants or whatever, and then you might go over here, you might pay this bill right here, you might pay your phone bill. After you did all these stops, you're like, wait a minute, I just got paid. Where did all my money go? You see? You're like, where did all my money go? Now you're down to $100 and you don't even know where the money went, right? Because you didn't have a plan for your money. right? So when we live off a budget, it's turned around. I ain't telling my money where it's going to go now. You see? So go on the website, go to God-Ordained Storehouse.com, click on step-by-step budgeting guide. It's up under the back on your feet tab. You got to click on that tab to get to this. And then how many steps are in here? Let's see. I got 9 steps for you. Okay, it's gonna teach you right here on how to budget. If you want to learn how to budget, okay, I'm just go over some of them right here, but go over there and read that. So again, you're gonna tell your money where it's going every single month. Okay, so this is where we creating a budget. So you want to list out all of your expenses for the month. Um, if you got a business on the side, then you want to list out your business expenses as well, okay, on a piece of paper. Then again, you want to list out the date, the amount, right, for your expenses. Um, and then also list write down your income, write down all the income that's coming in, okay? When is it coming in? What date? Okay. Or you could write down like if you get paid every 2 weeks, just say, okay, this coming in every 2 weeks. All right, write that down and put down how much is coming in because you need to know your numbers. That's what I'm getting at. I'm a numbers girl. I need to know the numbers, okay? So you need to know this the household expenses. This is my business expenses. This is how much income I have coming in every single month. And when you know these numbers, now I can begin to compare. Okay, am I in the positive or the negative? Come on now. We need to know these numbers. Okay. So when you see, you know your number, you like now it's revealing things to you. It might reveal to you I got too much debt. I got too many bills, right? And if that is the case, okay, where can we cut? What needs to be cut? Maybe you don't need Netflix right now. Maybe the Hulu can go away or the Amazon Prime can go away, right? Let's start cutting back on some of these things, okay, and turn this financial situation around for the better. Okay, maybe I don't need to eat out. That's another thing you might want to start tracking. If you eat out a lot, save the receipts. If you do a lot of driving, save the gas receipts for 1 whole month, total up all of the receipts and see how much you're paying. See how much money you are spending on fast food. See how much you're spending on gas. Okay. You need to know your numbers because when you know the numbers, you're gonna be like, wait a minute, I don't need that McDonald's. You're like, I'll cook, you know, you're gonna stop all that driving around. So we gotta see this. We gotta see the numbers, okay? And let me see. I go in depth, but more of this is in depth on my website. Okay, I'm just getting you started right here. Okay, but the whole goal is you want to tell your money where it's going. So once you list out all of your expenses, and if you got a business on the side, you list out that expenses as well. Now you tell your money, okay, money, when I get paid, right? First thing I'm paying. Let me say that. Let me hold up. You also I don't care how much debt you have. You always take care of shelter, food, and transportation. And then you go ahead and pay them debt. Okay? You always take care of your shelter. Okay? So you always take care of making sure you, and if you got children, y'all got a roof over your head. You always make sure you got some food to eat. Okay? You know, transportation. Depending on the situation, you probably don't need the transportation right now. But if you do need it, then okay, take care of that. All right. But when you get your before the check comes, you should already know. First thing I'm paying is my rent or um wherever you live it at. If it's a hotel, okay, this is the first thing I gotta pay. Okay. You don't want to be in a situation where when you get your money, you just set up here and pay this bill, but now you're like, I don't know if how I'm gonna pay this, how I'm gonna pay this hotel fee. You pay that hotel fee first because you need somewhere to live. You can't be out here on the street. Okay, you need food. All right, so that's what a budget is. You telling your money where it's going to go versus you looking up and you're like, I don't know where my money went. I just got paid yesterday. I don't know what happened. Life happened. Okay, so this is how we began to turn. our financial situation around for the better, okay? But I want you to go over to that website, God-Ordained Storehouse.com, and look at that whole. I gave you 9 steps on that website. I mean, on that page that'll help you, okay? Once you start applying all these steps to your financial situation, you're gonna see it's gonna take some time. It's not gonna be an overnight turnaround, but it's gonna take some time. It's gonna help you to get clear on this is how I end up in this situation. This is the lessons I'm learning. Write this stuff down. These are the lessons I'm learning because I will not be repeating this situation again. Come on now. And these are the steps I'm taking to turn around the situation. I'm going to start praying. I'm going to apply biblical principles. I'm going to take control of my finances and I'm going to tell my money where it's going every single month. Okay. That's how back in 2018, we went from being in a hotel for 10 months and getting into our house. That's how. This is what I did back then. And I still do this stuff till this day. I don't have like credit card debts or whatever. I tell them people, nope. I'm like, I'm good. I don't got no student loans. I don't got none of that stuff. So because I learned my lesson the first time. So that is it. Okay. That is it, everyone. Let me see what y'all saying in the chat. He said, looking back, I think God took me away from that circle to work on me. Yeah, that could be true too. You're welcome. You're welcome. You say, you see why I live up north because the piggy wiggy always get me in trouble, right? Yeah, let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, that was it. Yep. So, um, make sure, you play this back and, just write down, what you need to write down and go ahead and apply this to your finances, okay? Just a quick reminder about our From Healing to Dominion master. It's not a master class. I always say it's a master class. It's a 6-month program. Okay, there you go. From Healing to Dominion is a transformational program designed for those who have already begun healing and are ready to rise in spiritual authority. It's going to equip you to grow in power, overcome warfare, break generational cycles, restore what was lost. Okay. I'm also going to teach you if your God ordained marriage has come under attack, through slander, gossip, dishonor, disrespect. I'm going to share with you exactly how to restore the marriage reputation. Okay. If you have come up under, the gossip, the slander, all that stuff, from misunderstandings or whatever, I'm going to show you how to partner with God on getting, justice and for your situation as well. Okay. Um, but we're going to talk about all these things inside of the From Healing to Dominion program. Okay. So all you got to do is head over to GodOrdainedMarriageEnterprise.com/dominion. Um, this is also over on my Rebuilding Broken Walls website. I need to change the links, but this is also over there as well. But the link will also be in the description area. Just go to GodOrdainedMarriageEnterprise.com/dominion. Okay. And sign up because I'm gonna be teaching you all a lot of things in that program. All right, so let's see. Hey Gigi, this is such valuable information. Thank you. God bless. Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. And thanks for the info, huh? Oh, bless you, bless you, bless you, bless everyone. I thank you all for joining. And yeah, so go ahead, catch the replay. I'm about to get off of here, okay? Because I have more work to do. But yeah, let's go ahead and begin to turn these situations around in our favor, okay? But we got to learn the lesson. We have to get clear on some things. How did we end up here? Okay, what are the lessons I need to learn? Because that's what God is waiting on. He's like, I need you to learn the lesson before I release your wealth. Okay. I got to show you some things. I got to give you some wisdom that you didn't have before. Okay. So that's what this is all about. All right. So that is it. Thank you all for joining. Also, again, make sure you all like this live video, share it out, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay, take care.